10, 11, 12, 13.
Brian?
Oh, sorry, I love pixels so much. We're here with the latest new vehicle from Hyundai, the Ioniq 9. And yes, it is closely related to the EV9, but Hyundai says that this vehicle is going to offer even more range, more space, and more luxury. Let's find out if that's true. Hyundai first introduced its 3-row electric SUV with the number 7 attached to it, but that's grown to 9. And what we have here today very closely resembles that concept in a very good way. This has a really sort of unique shape to it. It's still definitely an SUV. If you didn't know, you can just look at kind of the cladding here. But otherwise, the shape actually, to me, it kind of reminds me of an old school Mercedes-Benz R-Class. And this has like a minivan sort of like profile to it. I don't know if they want me to say that, but it looks like it could have a pair of sliding doors quite easily. However, SUVs are what sells, so SUVs are what we get. Now, for an SUV, I think that this is incredibly striking. The front is super smooth. If you look down here, this line from sort of the hood that cascades all the way down, and this black piece of plastic right here, basically the whole front looks really cohesive, and then these coverings also just blend down seamlessly into it. Coming back this way, you can see that there's a black line down on the bottom here that sort of curves up as we get to the rear of the car. Hyundai did that to make it look less slabby, for lack of a better word, and I think it really works. Now, this little styling feature here, Hyundai calls these eyebrows, which seems like, you know, a very fitting feature, and these will always be body colored. Now, this black part here is not always black. So on higher trim levels, it actually becomes body colored as well. But here, I think if you had a different color, it might clash a lot with the black. But for this green, which I really, really like, it's okay. It kind of looks like this roof really tapers back down when you get to the rear, but when you sit inside of it, it doesn't feel like that at all. Headroom feels really expansive, so you get kind of that cool styling without really having to compromise on interior room. But it doesn't stop there. Here at the back is where I think the Ioniq 9 styling really comes together. I love sort of how flat this whole thing looks. And I also really like these pixelated accents that run all the way down the sides and across the top of the liftgate as well. It reminds me a lot of like Volvos from like the early 2000s where their SUVs had taillights that would really come up the entire side of the vehicle. This is like a very modern take on that, and I really like it. The only thing about the back I don't like, this Ioniq 9 badge is really, really big. I don't know if you need to really shout that you're driving Ioniq 9, but otherwise, I think that the back of this vehicle is really, really cohesively styled. The Ioniq 9 will be offered in single motor rear-wheel drive and dual motor all-wheel drive versions. Horsepower starts at 215 for the single motor vehicles, then jumps to 303 for all-wheel drive and 422 for a performance all-wheel drive setup. Hyundai is estimating a wide range of 0 to 60 mile an hour times, with the slowest being 8.4 seconds and the fastest 4.9 seconds with the more powerful all-wheel drive setup. While we don't know which trims will get the different setups or even which trims will be offered at all, Hyundai did confirm the top trim will be a calligraphy and it will come with the performance all-wheel drive standard. All models of the Ioniq 9 will get a 110.3 kilowatt hour battery pack, and that is about 10% more capacity than you'll get in the EV9's larger battery pack. And that's part of the reason why the Ioniq 9 will come with more estimated range. Official EPA estimates are not yet available, but Hyundai says it's targeting 335 miles of range for the rear-wheel drive version, and that all trim levels should offer over 300 miles on a full charge. Speaking of charging, the Ioniq 9 should be able to juice up from 10 to 80% in just 24 minutes thanks to its 800-volt architecture, and all Ioniq 9s will come with an NACS charge port standard, giving it access to Tesla's supercharger network. I don't think I've ever charged my laptop with a regular USB port in a car before. It's pretty cool. As different and unique as the exterior styling of the Ioniq 9 might feel, inside, things definitely feel a bit more familiar if you've been in any of the new Hyundai products recently. A lot of this stuff you are also gonna get in that new Hyundai Santa Fe. One difference though is that since there's no transmission tunnel, this console here is detached from the front, so you get an open space here. In other trim levels of this vehicle, you'll actually be able to slide this console back and forth about 7 inches, and that will give folks in the second row easier access to the storage bins. It does keep though this very cool bi-directional panel opening storage bin, so you can open it from either the front or the back. That's nice. And you also get an upgraded wireless charging pad here as well, 15 watts, and it also comes with a fan. Now, before you saw me charging my laptop using the USB ports, one of the coolest features of this vehicle when it comes to technology is that it has 100-watt charging, and that's total. So that's all the USB ports share that, but that means that if I'm charging a MacBook Pro in one port, someone can still charge a phone or a tablet. Having all that power draw just gives you a lot of flexibility. And of course, we still love where Hyundai put all these USB ports. The ones for the second row are actually in the seats here, so you can keep the cables off the floor. And there's also 2 for passengers in the third row as well. The screen setup in the Ioniq 9 is also analogous to what you'll get in the Santa Fe, with a pair of 12.3-inch screens, one for the instrument cluster and the other for the infotainment, placed next to each other behind one piece of slightly curved glass. And unlike the EV9, which has a third screen for the climate controls up there that can be hard to use, the Ioniq 9 has kept its climate controls in the dashboard, which we really like. The Ioniq 9 will also be the first Hyundai to have a digital store where you can download different themes for the screens or even design animations for the LED lights. But for now, the company says it won't offer performance upgrades through this system the way that Kia does, which is good news to our ears. Now, what we're sitting in now is one of the lower trim levels of the Ioniq 9. Hyundai hasn't announced all the trim levels, but this is something that will be sort of like equivalent to an SEL. One way that you can tell is that it has a bench seat here. So on the top trim levels, you're only gonna be able to get captain's chairs. On the lower ones, you're only gonna get a bench seat, and there's no switching them around, which means that the top trims will be 6-seat only, and the bottom ones, space for 7. As you can see here in the second row, things are really spacious. As you can tell, just headroom and legroom are crazy expansive, and you actually get a pretty good amount of travel with this seat. You can go very far forward and very far back, which means that getting into the third row via this power door release here is really easy. Now, even though the Ioniq 9 shares the eGMP platform with the EV9, the wheelbase in this vehicle has actually been stretched out a bit, and Hyundai says that that pays benefits when it comes to interior room. So I put this thing through, of course, the 3 Brian's test, driver's seat where I would sit, second row where I'm still comfortable, and here in the third row, as you can tell, I still have leg room, much better than even in the Palisade. But the thing that's really nice is that headroom. Like I mentioned before, this vehicle kind of looks like it might really cut down third row headroom because of its shape, but sitting here, tons and tons of headroom, and also pretty big windows for a third row as well. And the other thing that you're also gonna get in this third row is a ceiling mounted air vent. So that means plenty of air circulation. I get car sick, but I would actually be okay, I think, sitting in this third row for even a long trip. Hyundai hasn't provided yet like a full list of features for this vehicle on each trim level, but I have to say that being in a quote unquote lower grade, this has a ton of equipment. You still get heated second row seats and separate climate controls, and out front there you had ventilated front seats, 3 USB-C ports. Just, it seems like all levels of the Ioniq 9 are gonna be really well equipped. We were able to find another calligraphy model in the studio, and we wanted to show you one cool feature of these captain's chairs. So Hyundai tells us that in the US, all the vehicles that comes with captain's chairs, they're gonna be powered. And so I have this little bank of controls right here, and what I can do is I can actually use them to extend this footrest and back up here, because Hyundai has put in what they're calling a relaxation seat now in the second row. So that means that the front 2 seats and these 2 seats all come with footrests and plenty of reclinability. So now, while the car is charging, let's say, you can recharge too. The Ioniq 9 should go on sale in spring of 2025, and it will be built at Hyundai's new plant in Georgia. And that's an important detail to add, because that means that this vehicle should qualify for the full $7,500 tax credit. Now, tax credit situations always change, so be sure to check out our tax credits page on Edmunds for the latest info. Now, Hyundai is not yet announcing pricing for this vehicle, but we can infer some things from it, because they said that all trim levels of the Ioniq 9 should qualify for the tax credit, and that means that the top price of this vehicle will be under $75,000, and that should put pricing more in line with what we're seeing with the EV9. But again, in this vehicle, you're gonna get a little bit more room and some more features that I think make it feel even more luxurious than the Kia. For families that want more room and more space out of their EV, there haven't been too many options, but I think that the arrival of the Ioniq 9 is a good sign that that segment is finally going to be expanding. Do I wish it were a minivan? Only slightly. I think it's very good looking, I think it's very cool, and I can't wait to get behind the wheel. Thanks for watching.